So now that we've watched the shape shifting video, let's do some shape shifting of our own. And here's what you're going to need. 2 pieces of paper. I have 2 white pieces of paper, but you can use 2 of the pieces of construction paper that Lily and I sent home a couple weeks ago. You're going to need a pencil and a pair of scissors. And they had 2 shapes that they started with in that video. They had a rectangle and a square. So right now I just have 2 rectangles, but I'm going to show you a really quick way to turn one of your rectangles into a square. I'm going to lean my camera down so you can see. So here I have my rectangular piece of paper. You're going to take a corner and you're going to fold it down to the very bottom edge of the paper. Do you see how I took that corner and I folded it all the way down? And you're going to line it up with the bottom edge and fold it flat so it kind of makes like a diagonal. So you're going to have a piece of paper that's shaped like this. Half of it will be folded over, and then you have this empty space here. And what you're going to do next is you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut right along the edge where those papers meet. We did this, if you remember, when we made paper snowflakes in our classroom. This is how we got our squares to make the paper snowflakes. So now you cut off this rectangular piece, and what shape do we have? A triangle. And when we open up our triangle, it has become a square. So now we can start turning this square into different shapes. And I'm going to decide what shapes I'm going to make first by drawing some lines on my paper. So I think the first shape I'm going to do is I'm going to just trace that folded line and make 2 big triangles. So I'm going to cut along that line to make my triangles. Now I can turn this into something else. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw another line right up the middle to make another triangle. And then I'm going to draw a line here and see what happens. Now I have 1, 2, 3 triangles out of this big triangle, and I'll cut them up. So I have 1, 2, 3 triangles. These 2 are the same size, and these are a little smaller. Okay, so that's 1 triangle. Now I have this triangle. And I think what they did, which I thought was pretty cool, is they made a square out of this. So they kind of found this middle line here, and they just drew 1 line going that way and 1 line going that way. And look, then you have your square in the middle and 2 other triangles. So I'll cut those out in a minute. Now my rectangle, I could do lots of different things with my rectangle. I could make more rectangles, and then I could make some triangles, and then I could make an even smaller triangle. I could try to make some squares. I could do lots of different things. So see what kind of shapes you can create using 1 piece of rectangular paper and 1 piece of square paper. And when you're done, use these shapes to make a picture, make some sort of collage. I'm going to finish cutting and designing, and then I will share with you the picture that I make. So as I was playing around with all of the shapes that I cut out, it reminded me of something we had in our classroom, one of the toys we would play with. Do you guys remember those pattern blocks? They were magnetic, and they were different shapes. The little triangles were green, and the hexagons were yellow, and then there were trapezoids that were red, and I think the squares were blue, or maybe the squares were orange, and then there were skinny rhombus, and there were green rhombus maybe or something. I can't remember all the colors and the shapes. But as I was putting these together, it reminded me of some of the patterns and the designs that you guys would make. So here's my finished project. It could either be a bird or a rocket ship. I'm not quite sure. But I used a big triangle, and then to make this rectangle, I used 2 squares. I put them together. And then to create this rhombus shape that's over on the side, I used 2 triangles for the wings, and then I used these 2 bigger triangles down here at the bottom. So when you are done creating your shape shifting picture, share it with us. And then I also put some cool games up in the Google Classroom that are with pattern blocks that you can play on your computer, just like we used to play in our classroom.